Well, hello, creatives, community, kind folks out there. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and of course, we have to welcome our collegiates and classmates as well. Thank you for joining us here on this channel. On this channel, we talk anything and everything tabletop RPGs, but we got to narrow it down a little bit. So we take one theme the entire week, and this week we're going to talk about reskinning. If you've seen the thumbnail, it's like reskinning and attach your own description, reuse, rename, repurpose, and such. And it is a tool that is used very commonly in our tabletop RPGs, especially in Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, we talk here 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but it can be used with any tabletop role-playing game. But I thought there was much more that we could delve into when it comes to reskinning things. Now, by the way, we're streaming live on YouTube as well as Fantasy Grounds College. So if you prefer to listen in and participate through Discord, please go over to Fantasy Grounds College, log on in, go to the slider, go down into the boiler room, slide on down to the bottom, and you will see the DBJ chat and audio. So you can join in that way as well. And also, have a talk with the people, the brilliant people that are always participating with us. So today, just as a reminder from yesterday, we talked about, yesterday was Monster Monday. And on Monster Monday, we talked about origins. Dead man's like reskinning Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, I think you could do that. But we are sometimes we have to narrow our scope down a little bit. So yesterday we talked about origins of things and how without changing not a single statistic in the game, just by changing the origin, it changes our interactions with the creatures that are there or the NPCs and even the races that exist in our world. But we can start talking about some other things when it comes to reskinning, because reskinning is not just a part of flavor. Sometimes it has to do with about using some of the gaming statistics and how we interact with the game. So today I thought we'd just be a little bit generalized. It's kind of, this is our Discord Tuesday. I thought it would be our grab bag of things. Rickard says, don't think we are powerful enough to reskin Cthulhu. I think the great old one will object quite insanely. Yeah, before our minds break, I don't think we get to the point where we would take his skin off and reskin. Yeah. So I thought we would just try to define reskinning in the first place, and just generally talk about some of the things that we do and define what it is that each of us may consider to be reskinning. So yeah, how do you reskin something that's just been flayed? Don't you have some extra skin hanging around? You guys don't save skin? That's where all the nutrients are at. I hear if you barbecue it. Yep. So reskinning. Well, for me, reskinning is basically taking the idea that you take your role-playing game, and it may have very specific to very generalized descriptors in the world. For example, elves tend to be have pointy ears. They seem a little bit frail, androgynous kind of. Dwarves are shorter, they're stocky, they live underground, and a fireball is a big ball of fire. Plate mail armor is made out of steel. There's just some very generalized things that we can assume, especially in say Dungeons and Dragons, or even some of our other games like Call of Cthulhu, that there's elder gods that are being summoned by an evil cult, and we're investigating it. When we, we're it's not whether you survive, it's like who survives the longest, right, before you go insane or die. And when it comes to reskinning, sometimes we can just reflavor what we have. Maybe we rename it, we change the name, we change its appearance, without changing any of the game statistics. And that's kind of the beginning part of reskinning. For example, we uh, there is a bully that goes into the tavern or something, and this bully is a big muscle bound individual, and we're thinking, well, we don't have statistics. I don't want to use the statistics for a thug or a bandit. I want to use the statistics, the stat block for an ogre. And because this person has been uh, punching the residents in the jaw in this small village for such a long time, that he's just gotten that good at it. He's just that tough. And so in that manner, we take a stat block and we reskin it as another individual. That person is not called ogre. That person is called bully, and we place that individual into our world, and then we use those statistics. The same could be said for maybe making an environmental effect. For example, the PCs are in a deep dungeon, and you want to have a wind tunnel, that there's a tunnel with high winds, and the PCs must transverse this tunnel, but there's also enemies behind them. And so instead you maybe reskin a gust of wind spell. And so instead of making it a spell, you just have a gust of wind permanently blowing through this cavern. And it's not magical. There's no person casting the spell. It just happens to be a strong wind blowing down this tunnel. Rickard says changing a name, such as filing the serial numbers off, which is another way of describing reskinning, right? It's well, just file the serial numbers off, or just use a stat block, right? Rickard says change the outlook, such as disguising something, making two things into one, like combining something, and changing the lore, like we did yesterday. So changing the name, like filing the serial numbers off, you can really, because in this way, we don't have to change any rules. We don't have to worry about game balance. We don't have to worry about whether something is going to air quotes break your game by just filing off the serial numbers. And the further divergent you can describe something or disguise something away from its intended purpose, the greater time you can have having some fun with the players trying to figure something out. Let me give you an example. We played with a troll in a past talk, right, about describing this large mutated creature with dark black fingernails and pus-filled growths on its skin. And the players go, oh, it must be a troll. They cut off its arm. The arm starts to grow back, and then you start describing it as, well, it starts to grow two arms back. And the PCs are like, wait a minute, I thought this was a troll, because maybe their experience with the game, their preconceptions of what it is, where instead it may be a hydra, right? So yeah, the troll hydra, yeah, we were talking about. So an example could be that maybe there were 1, 2, or 3 other trolls, or maybe the player's expectation is to encounter a troll, but what you've really done is you've decided, you know what, yeah, the hydrol. Yeah. Sounds like some kind of like a topical medication or something. It's like having a rash, apply some hydrol. But taking the stat block of a hydra and then describing it as something other than something that is not a serpent, something that is not multi-headed, something that is not bestial, can really, when the players interact with it, now the discovery becomes, what is it? What have they done? And it saves you a lot of trouble as a dungeon master when it comes to creating these things by just changing the names. Now, when it comes to using, let's say, Fantasy Grounds, you can go in and just change the name of of a creature without doing much else to it. Now, of course, it's going to have, depending on what you call up, it may have some uh, a different kind of background or something, but you can absolutely change the name. Now, a very simple way to change a name is to take a humanoid creature, file the name off, and just make it another type of humanoid creature. You can take a beast that's in the woodlands or in jungles or swamps or whatever, or aquatic, and just change the name, and you're done, right? You can change uh, all the humanoid creatures, right? Trolls, bugbears, ogres, some of the giants. You could just change the names and call it something else. Now, it could be called something else culturally in your world, which is not quite reskinning, but you can still bring something new to the table. For example, the people are besieged by the serpent folk, and the villagers are like, please save us, heroes, we need to help from the serpent folk. And the villagers, because you always have to have villagers besieged by serpent folk, um their descriptions may be vague enough that the players may not know what kind of serpent folk they are going to encounter. For example, some may assume that they are lizard folk. Others may assume they are dragonborn. There may be others that are like, well, maybe they're actually troglodytes or naga or Yuan-ti or Yuan-ti or so, yeah, Sahugin. Yeah, yeah. I don't know how to spell it, but or any combination thereof, right? So it may not be even be a. I'm with you, dude. It may not even be a matter of reskinning uh, the rules, but reskinning our cultural interactions with them. For example, someone may say something is a serpent folk, and it may it may be the vaguest of interactions or relationships to serpents, right? A troll like creature or a hag that is has like a scaly skin may it's the spells, the Sahogan, that we tend to misspell, just like Aarakocra and Surf Neblin and some of those other D&Diized words, right? It's the idea is that the people in the world may describe something and not really understand what it is, but the players outside of the game, the metagame part of it, is like, oh, I didn't. They meant Nagas. They didn't know, that kind of thing, right? So that is a possibility as well. That so you can reskin culturally, but now inside the world, as talking about disguising something, who's to say that a Rakshasa or doppelgangers or something shapeshifted is not looking like it is a serpent creature that people have interacted with, and this is the way they now that's not really reskinning, but is a way to add a little bit of mystery into the game. A doppelganger, cloaking itself as a lizard folk who happens to be making deals in dark alleys with some of the PCs would be another way of having a creature interact with the players and surprising them when they go to attack the monster or something, and it does not react in the way that they're thinking. Yeah, yeah, definitely. For it says, yeah, the players who read the monster manual all the way through, and you're going to get those individuals, right? They're like, oh, I know what this is. Now, another way of reskinning as well is disguising what it is, not just disguising it in game like a doppelganger or shape-shifting or illusions, or mundane disguises, right? A cloak, hiding behind a wall and having discussions and such. But there's also the idea of gaming wise disguising it. So yes, we can take a creature and it's humanoid. I'm just going to flavor it as another humanoid, but we can also take something, and once you erase the name, you can take the stat block and make it just about anything you want. Um, and this is where we get into a little bit more detail in terms of reskinning something. Rickard says cultural flavor, like I did with the Aztec flavored were jaguar, changed out the were tiger's longbow and scimitar in favor for a sling and a great club. You know, closest I could think of for a Makal Heat Huit Hoodle Makal Huitl. I don't remember the word, but yes, the an Aztec war club. And honestly, this is, and I understand our initial desire to like have more monster books and things, but when you reskin a stat block, let's take the idea of going with like the were jaguar thing, like a longbow and a scimitar or something, weapons, you can reskin that into claws, tail, a tail attack, staff, a sword, weapon. It doesn't really matter, right? The creature does damage, and just reskin what that damage is. Now, before we get into even a deeper reskin, if the thing does piercing damage, just create some other piercing weapon for that creature. If it has a ranged attack, just reskin that ranged attack for that creature. Yeah, Dead Man Storyteller says, or the people who read all the various Monster Manual variants, such as the Master Manual 3.5, the Orient. Yeah, exactly. And again, using culture, like Rickard talks about, Aztec flavored, Egyptian cultures that are divergent from us. You know, there are, from what we're used to, other cultures call things differently. A longsword is a katana. You know, a a staff would be a bow. A there My mind's being flooded by so many things together. A longsword could be a scimitar in this particular world. So, or a I don't know, what was a saber or something, if they're on the high seas, or anything thereof. So in the world, I mean, you could even go so far as to reskin a hand crossbow as some sort of firearm, if the PCs have stumbled into some far off land or something where they do that. Rickards even mentions change it to a were shark and have its claw attack be a jagged hook attack. Have the scimitar be a rapier, a longbow be a crossbow. You now have a pirate lycanthrope. Exactly, and there's nothing stopping us from doing that. And so I sometimes, as a person who produces, is in the midst of producing our role-playing content, I am sometimes uh um put in a position where, do you produce material that is essentially just a reskin of something else, or do you do it knowing that wrapped in a nice package, it actually seems like it's something new? And so I'm often, uh, I prefer not to do that, but I see how easy it is to do something like that. The Another idea is to have like, when it further reskinning something, whether something has a particular armor class or statistics, you could describe its defensive nature by having it being very skilled in defending itself, especially if it's humanoid, in armor, with armor and shield and such, or having combat abilities, to something with a thick skin, to something that is very ephemeral. Maybe it phases in and out, and that is how its armor class is described. Something could be enchanted with a particular powerful magic that keeps it strong, versus something that is more just tough and has thick scales, or or it's just very uh, uh, has a very enduring nature to it, where weapons just bounce off of its body, or maybe whatever it's is being attacked, the weapons go into its body, but there are no damages because the weapons aren't hitting any, important important vital organs or something. Dead Man placed into the chat, into Discord, the Mak Macau Huitl, which is the war club, the Aztec war club. Um, I like I like the Islander War Club, the one made with the shark's teeth in it too, as well. I kind of like that one. Yeah, Dead Man says the Monster Manual binder thing. I love that one actually, with the big binders and the section separators. Yeah, and again, we can use other stat blocks to create variations of an army of some creatures that we want. For example, we can go in and say, let's take an orc. Very common, very simple. We take ourselves an orc. We can go through what we already have. Let's say, let's pick an ogre. Maybe we pick a let's go with a naga. I happen to like nagas and hags and stuff like that. You guys know I talk about those. We can pick one of those. We can pick ourselves maybe a hill giant, and let's pick a doppelganger, right? We can just rename those creatures and make them variations off of our orc. So instead of just an orc soldier, we can have an orc spy that's a doppelganger, and describe its ability to shape change into something else, give it a separate origin, like we talked about yesterday. Maybe it was blessed by the gods, or maybe it's mutated, or maybe one of the orcs um is suffering from some sort of disease, like, and we make it into a troll, and but that weird mutation that it has also is allowing it to to live longer and heal from its wounds. Whereas we can take ourselves like a naga and call it an orc shaman. We could take an ogre and hill giant and call it like uh, the orc chieftain or the orc warlord or what have you, and which of course could very easily be changed in fantasy grounds. You go in, copy the statistics, change the name, you're done now, right? And then you can have them stacked together, and orc comma warlord, orc shaman, orc spy, orc assassin, orc thief, orc trap setter, or orc wizard, whatever the case may be, and do it that way. Now let's get a little deeper into and some of the more problematic portions uh in terms of reskinning. Now, one thing we can also do when it comes to reskinning is change how the creatures are interacting. So the idea of like the were shark, maybe we change how the creature moves. So instead of giving it some kind of ground movement, we add to it or change and give it some aquatic movement, some swimming. Maybe we give it flight. Instead of piercing and slashing damage, we change it to fire and poison. Maybe we bump up slash bump down some of the statistics. So instead of a dire wolf, although we do have wargs. Let me take another example. Instead of a mindless bestial hydra, we give it a little bit of intelligence. Maybe we allow it to talk, even if it has the mind of a 6-year-old, right? And in that way, we do want to be a little bit careful of how it interacts into the game. But for the most part, doesn't matter. We're not going to break the game by giving a hydra the ability to speak 3 different languages, right? You're not going to break the game by having your orcs reskinned as merfolk and just having um, Navy SEAL orcs or something that can swim through the water and climb up the pirate the sailing craft that the PCs are on, and the orcs are like pirates attacking from from below and scrambling up the sides of a craft or whatever. It's you're not really going to change it. Orcs that live in the caves that just so happen to have bat wings and have a flying speed, yes, they may be very difficult to fight. Hey, they do have a flying speed, but again, you're probably not going to break the system, especially if the PCs have gained one or a number of levels beyond the orcs, but you still want to use them. Yeah, Navy SEAL orcs. Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Um, well trained. They are first in, last out kind of thing, right? Maybe that's the Marines. But anyway, but you guys get what I'm saying. The idea of some people ask, well, how can I have these CR1 half, the CR2 creatures still relevant at higher levels? And my easy answer to that is, well, they're not. But what you can do is reskin some other things in your world and modify them a little bit and just reskin them as those same, let's say, orcs that happen to have other capabilities, and then make, of course, within your setting, make a reason for it. Have they been mutated by pools of dark necrotic energy? Have they been gifted with these abilities by a powerful a powerful mentor or patron or something? Maybe they just happen to be there are as many variations on orcs as there are human beings. The desert orcs are different than the swamp orcs, which are different than the mountain orcs, etc. Yeah. Orc air rangers, oh yeah, dive bombing in, shooting, dropping alchemical bombs, yeah, yeah, attacking. Dead Man says attacking the gnomish ornithopters, exactly. Again, here, let's go into some more reskinning. You can very easily reskin what kind of creatures what their origin is. So you can make something an aberrant, you can make something a beast, you can make something a construct, right? Yeah. Dropping goblins as bombs. The first 4 or 5 might not mind. After that, I think you might have a little rebellion on your hands. They're like, wait, what happened? Hey, there's my friend. Let me go after him. Hey, Joey, wait for me. Oh yeah. But exactly, right? Are we now saying that we can't give our goblins, I don't know, fireballs? Well, yeah, we can do that. Give them some what is the what's the alchemical thing that explodes? Oh, my mind just farted, man. Um, it's the napalm of, yeah, alchemist fire. Wow. Yes, thank you very much. It's the alchemist fire, right? Can we give our goblins some alchemist fire being dropped by our orc raiders? Sure. Does that mean the goblins are probably dead on impact? Yeah, but it's not like you're going to run out of goblins, right? Um, it's hard to figure out which breeds faster, goblins or rabbits, right? So we can absolutely do that. And again, maybe we're reskinning spells, right? Fireballs, alchemist fire, whatever other kind of things, and reskinning them as equipment. No, they're not really casting spells. What they're doing is they're lighting them. They're lighting the the C4, the nitroglycerin, the gunpowder, and running into a place and then exploding, much like it was done in Lord of the Rings, right? The Battle of Helm's Deep. They did the exact same thing. So either goblin fire gourds or coconuts, exactly. So are yes, I understand there is alchemist fire that you can buy on the equipment list, but maybe we want to go a little arcane. Maybe whatever they're carrying with them is like it freezes everything, and when it explodes, it turns the place into a frozen landscape, like a grease spell, right? And also maybe it's the equivalent of like an ice storm or a fireball that you've changed and said, it does cold damage instead of fire. Again, another reskin, right? So we can reskin spell effects. We can reskin um, uh, everything from layers to creatures to anything, just renaming it. And of course, we can start to modify things like armor classes, bumping the armor classes up and down. We can modify hit points up and down based on what kinds of interactions we want in our games. We can modify any number of these things, and that is essentially what reskinning is. For example, take the gnomish ornithopters, right? We could let's you could take any number of flying creatures like a sphinx. Let's take a sphinx. uh we could reskin the sphinx as a construct. We erase the serial numbers, right? It's not this human faced lion like thing with wings. You completely erase the serial numbers. Okay, it's got a flight. All right, so we're going to make it a construct. It flies through the air. Maybe it has some kind of claw attacks. Okay, well, instead of claws, they're going to be pikes or spears or something we're going to use. It has a sphinx has some kind of spell abilities. You know what? We're just going to make those spell abilities from like the gnomes that are using it to pilot the ornithopter, and just describe it as this bicycle pedaled flying contraption with some kind of a generalized spell effects, defending itself against the orc raiders that are dropping goblins with alchemist fire onto the NPCs. Ricker says combining fireball and grease to make an ice ball that creates an area of difficult terrain in addition to the initial damage. Absolutely. I've often made the joke, because you guys know me, I'm, the cinematic environments, blah blah blah, right? And my contention is like you're pretty much an a-hole if you design a dungeon that has 60 grease spells spread around and 47 pit traps in it, along with once you fall into the pit trap, you also have to make saves or you're paralyzed, right? But if you reskin it as the PCs are fighting on a frozen lake, it's something different. It's all about context. It's not just reskinning something just to do it, but it's about wrapping. Yeah, and the pit trap closes on you while you're inside, right? It's about the context of not just reskinning it, but setting it within the world, is the verisimilitude of the world. You know, yes, I'm an a-hole to put, yeah, a pit trap has a gelatinous cube. Every pit trap has a gelatinous cube at the bottom. Yeah, that's the terrible version of it, right? But if you've already, we talk about foreshadowing, right? You're going across a volcanic region with, there's geysers, blasting flames and poison gases into the air. You feel the ground shuddering. There's 18 volcanoes on the horizon, all of them blasting hot magma into the sky. And oh, by the way, you've got to watch your foot, because underground, under your feet, a mere step will crack the ground below you and blast, exposed lava and all those kind of things. Well, have you been, reskinning the gelatinous cubes as acid underneath these pit traps, which, maybe there's a random chance of being targeted by a meteor swarm or burning hands, or maybe there's random uh, fog clouds and what's poison gas? I forget the poison gas spell. Doesn't matter. You could have a random chart of all of these things happening randomly around the players at all times, simply by placing it in the setting, and you already have the mechanics in front of you to do it. Cloud kill. Thank you very much, Dead Man. Cloud kill spell. And you could make yourself your own little D10 chart or percentile chart, because maybe some of the minor things you want to happen more often than some of the more devastating things. And again, I make the contention that reskinning a lair, right? You have let's take a black dragon, and the black dragon has its lair with its dangerous insects, and clouds of insects, and brackish waves of water sweeping up on the shore, pulling the PCs down into the swamp like shoals or whatever, in algae covered land and all this kind of business. Well, why not just remove the black dragon out of that area and place maybe an old hag or any kind of creature or master you want in that lair? Or how about just removing the creature completely and just having those things happen within the lair, taking the lair and having those things happen completely within that environment, randomly or periodically, or at the behest of many of the creatures that live there that are sentient, or just having happen to happen randomly, both against the PCs and some of your adversaries as well. Maybe the player characters have hunted down those orc raiders, and they've decided to escape into the haunted swamp or something, and they're not from there because they come from the cold lands where they've been dropping ice balls and grease spells on people. We're combining both effects, right? But they're on the run now, and the PCs are going after them. Maybe those so-called lair effects are happening to your NPCs as much as your PCs. And again, listen, you're not going to run out of orcs. There's nothing or reskin that spell is Taco Bell night. Boom, the fourth meal, right? It's God, I love some nacho fries. You just don't get enough of them. You know what I mean? It's just, oh, they're so decadent. Oh, but again, I think as a tool, many of us use reskinning as a tool in minor ways, major ways. Some of us just do it. Some of us world creators are just like, look, I'm gonna like Zev's not here, but Zevron is always talking about, like, he loves his Egyptological setting and reskinning all of those things. So could you take like talking about the were-jaguars or something, right? Can we take a werewolf and just call it a were-jackal without changing anything? Yeah. Were-hyenas, probably, of course. Giant scorpions you can throw into something that's Egyptological. Swarm of, what is it? A swarm of vultures. Can you change that into swarm of ravens? Of course. Swarm of eagles, yes. A swarm of bloodhawks, of course. Just renaming and reskinning things to be placed into your world. And of course, it can be based on region. It can be based on motivation. Maybe there's something Assassin's Creed Origins, D&D. Yeah. Again, maybe Assassin's Creed. Let's bring that up. Assassin's Creed, and of course we all want to be, we want to be one of those assassins, right? Running across rooftops, doing our parkour, free running throughout the cityscapes and such. And Scott Bow says, were mantis, were owlbear, were trolls. Yeah, why not? As a matter of fact, you can even, we talked about origins, right? Who's to say that you could reskin? You can reskin were-gnolls. Yeah. Who's to say that a troll isn't a were creature, right? Who's to say that your owlbears and your gnolls aren't were type lycanthropic creatures in your world? You don't need to have statistics for their normal human stats. They could just be infected or hidden uh, people in the villages, and when they are threatened, they become this other thing. They transform either temporarily or permanently, by choice or by curse, by blessing or curse. They could become these other things. And so maybe your mayor is a were troll that can become this monstrous thing and is discovered by the PCs. And so what statistics are you going to use for it? Just use a stat block for a troll. It just so happens in your world that the old hag that lives in the swamp where you've reskinned her lair from a black dragon happens to be able to use her hag's milk and give it to to the mayor, who made a deal with her to take some of the villagers' children or something. um a were cow. um hmm I don't know if you'd want to go milk a were cow. Oh man, moo. Yeah. I would love someone to draw a picture of that. Yeah, putting the moo in the moonster. Yeah. Now, um, sometimes, excuse me, we have to be careful about about reskinning some things. Yeah. A whole new view to going and getting your milk. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Luke Skywalker, milking the creature in the Last Jedi, having ourselves some fun with some green milk. Now we got to be careful about things. Uh, Dungeons and Dragons has not equalized their damage sources. What I mean is, fire and poison damage. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage is the most common damage source. Second to that is probably fire and poison, and at the most rare is probably force and psychic damage in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. The reason they kind of decided to do that, and so therefore, if you start changing things around quite a bit, um, your fireball into a psychic ball of energy or something, or your fireball into a force ball, you might want to be careful about that for balance issues. But as a game master, especially if you want to ramp up the power level, and of course you want to ramp up the experience that the PCs get, you want to ramp up the difficulty, you can grant those things. And remember, you're the dungeon master, you're the game master. You can modify just about anything you want for any reason. So modifying spell effects for creatures, or modifying spells in general, or even having one great tool is to have spells available for PCs to learn that are just reskins of the spells that are already there. They just have other sources. So an example would be PCs um, go to swamplands, and one of the PCs, of course, knows the fireball spell, but they find a scroll by the old hag that's a poison ball spell that explodes into, splashes, I don't know, a fine mist in the area that, seeps into the skin of any biological creature in the area and kills it, killing foliage or something in the area. That's just coming off the top of my head, but you guys understand. Maybe acid would probably be more appropriate to that, but yes, there it's a possibility. Maybe there's even maybe a more martial character wants to learn a, I don't know, instead of a fireball, it's a blade ball spell or something that shoots out extremely sharp needles, that's, or daggers or something that explodes into the area and pierces everything in the area like shrapnel or whatnot. So and of course, it's fireball is an iconic spell, but there's 1,000 other reskins you can use for things of that nature. The same goes for any number of otherworldly creatures, such as elementals, fiends, celestials, and anything in between. You can have just about any creature from the elemental plane of Earth by just describing it as something that is from the earth. So, yeah, could a troll be from the elemental plane of earth? Sure. Just call it something else, and it regenerates by absorbing the land around it, you know? Yeah. um, De Leon says, a mix of aliens, blood, and any monster. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And again, we have ourselves some origins, you know. Ricker says fire whirlwind, a fireball, but centered around the melee character by using alchemist fire and a secret technique. That is reskinning, like how it's used, maybe reskinning its duration. So the a fireball isn't shot out, but it's centered on the PC and surrounds the PC, and it's like a whirlwind of fire. And actually, we've seen that kind of thing, like a tornado, but instead it's like fire or something like that. Absolutely. And so, unfortunately, here's the bad part, because we got to mention it. Here's some of the bad parts. Another part of the bad parts of reskinning is that you can kind of get lost in it, you know, like me. I'm a victim of this, where you can go so far down the rabbit hole of reskinning that you lose what it is that you were reskinning in the first place. And it becomes something so new that the balance issues and how you've incorporated into your game, that it becomes a gotcha instead of something that becomes a story element, right? If you're a game master and you realize all of your PCs have resistances and immunities to fire, when you reskin something to have cold, are you doing it because you want to do a gotcha against your PCs? Like, haha, now I'm I circumvented your immunities, so now I'm going to get you as the game master, the dungeon master, or are you doing it to place more obstacles and more challenges that your players can overcome if they're creative enough, right? Yeah. De Leon says Londell. I don't know why I keep saying De Leon. It reminds me of that. But anyway, sorry. Says, or it feels like a MacGuffin that has to be kept, right? It's the PCs circumvent something to go after the MacGuffin, and you as the dungeon master are like, oh, face palming yourself, and you're going, well, how do I keep the MacGuffin away from them? I know. They had a teleport spell on the chest of treasure, and it just happens to disappear. The MacGuffin, whether it's the kidnapped princess, the ruby jewel, the lich phylactery, the important documents. Somehow you grab the important documents, but it was an illusion the whole time. And you don't want to do gotchas. You want, if your players were smart enough to achieve the goal, give it to them. You can always add more, right? Yeah, Rickard says, if you target one player's weakness, make sure the monster is weak to maybe another player's attacks. Exactly. If you oftentimes you'll let's say you flip through your monster manual and you'll say, wow, in a vacuum, sometimes somebody will read a monster stat and they'll go, wow, this creature is really powerful for its CR level. Or someone will say, man, that's really weak for its CR level. The issue with that is that's only in a vacuum. It's the same issue we have with player balance, right? Wow, your wizard is sure far more capable than my monk. I think that's unbalanced in a vacuum. But let's consider the setting, right? Maybe that creature is very powerful in one instance, but very weak in another. And if that weakness is exploited, then you can have some other thing. For example, a Hydra might be very powerful for its CR level. You cut off a head, it grows two more, very difficult to fight, but it has a weakness. What is it, acid, or is it just fire? Or maybe it is acid or fire. Throw it on a stump, cut off one of its heads, you can very easily, not easily, but you have a way of defeating whatever it is. The same goes for many other creatures. Maybe they are powerful in a larger group. So a horde of orcs is far more powerful than, say, a single orc, right? Um, 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 James Lindell says, well, yes, with what Rickard says, you can focus to help give each party member their shining moment. And I'm a huge proponent of that, huge proponent. Whether it's the throwing in some flying creatures, because the barbarian can deal out hundreds of points of damage with their axe, but it's like, I can't reach the flying creatures. But now the archer is like, oh, I get to shine, and I get to, pop some of these creatures out of the sky, right? It's the oh, we're fighting on an open plain. Well, maybe we're fighting in a narrow valley or cavern or something like that. It's, or maybe we're fighting in fog. Here I am going into using the environment, that third pillar. But there's so many other things as well. The idea of a clockwork creature that can be turned off if you find the right, you break the specific gear inside of it, right? You set up you reskin a dragon turtle as a mechanical beast, and you give the players maybe some clues to stop what's going on. And so maybe, sure, one player can deal out a whole ton of damage, but you offer other methods of being effective and solving the problem, right? If the only way to solve the situation is doing damage, then the only people who feel like they're effective and successful are the ones that are doing the most. But if you find other ways to solve situations, to be effective, and effectiveness does not necessarily meaning doing the most damage, but being the most effective in a particular situation. So an example would be, one player can one-shot every single zombie. And my character's powerful and I'm first level. I can one-shot a zombie. Boom, boom, boom. Other players, like, I can't do that. But if I collapse the ceiling, if I push those things off the side of the cliff, if I have them follow me and they fall into the pit trap filled with acid, if I trap them between, this was a real event that happened in one of my games when I was, I guess I was a teenager or something. I had a keep, and they were like first level, and I wanted them to go into the keep, and my intention was, oh, you're going to be attacked by harpies. And what did they do? They're like, well, don't castles have like those double portcullises? And I didn't even have any idea. I was like, yeah, I guess they do. They're like, well, we're gonna have the harpies follow us into the portcullis, and we're gonna drop the portcullises on both ends and trap the harpies inside, and then we're just gonna burn them. And I was like, oh man, I didn't even think about that. But I had an epiphany, and I was like, that's a great idea. And I was like, hell yeah, let's time this out. Let's do it. Hey, dead man. The pronunciation king is like, says what is that? The war club, the Aztec war club is pronounced Makwa Whittle. Yeah, thank you, D. The idea that you can be effective and offer other methods of solving a situation. So yeah, reskinning, great tool that we can use. You don't want to reskin something so much that you've removed any ability for the PCs to combat what it is that they're fighting, right? You want to be able to allow your players to, or at least give them enough clues to overcome what's going on. So for example, you've created this giant army of orcs, and you created every kind of orc, Navy SEAL orcs, Shadowrunner orcs. You've made, flying orcs, and I don't know, phase through wall orcs and wizard orcs. You've done all this stuff, and your PCs are like, man, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to fight them. Maybe, just maybe, they are trained by a master, warlord orc, and if you take out the warlord, maybe they start to lose their morale, or maybe they've been gifted with these powerful abilities, and if you can not even destroy their their patron, but if you can just make the patron look just a little bit weaker, maybe some of them are going to go off on their own. Maybe some of the orcs are mercenary, and they're like, if you just give them an open door, an opportunity to maybe make some extra cash, or offer them a deal they just can't refuse, you know. Gnome tinker spray, orc be gone. Oh man, yeah. Oh man, like a foam spray, you know. Yeah, buy orc tinker spray. We get rid of orcs so you don't have to. Going down the drain. So yeah, there's so many outlets for reskinning. And remember, when you reskin something, it should fit into your world, right? This doesn't prevent us from role playing our creatures, role playing our NPCs, role playing their motivations, even mindless animalistic creatures, mindless creatures, skeletons and zombies, excuse me, constructs, golems. There's a reason why they exist. You can role play them as well. Are the golems trying to just push the PCs out of the room and slam the doors shut? Are they going after specific PCs because they can sense some kind of magic item with them? Are they associated with some of one or more of the gods that are an antithesis to the enemy? So this doesn't preclude us from role playing what's going on, but reskinning what they are. And of course, our basics, because we're getting down to the hour mark. We absolutely can reskin everything in the stat block: their alignment, what their purpose is, what their origins are, the weapons that they carry with them, the kind of treasures that they have. We can bump up the damage potential, the armor classes, the movement rates, the movement types, and all that kind of stuff. So we absolutely positively can and should use that as a tool. And just be aware as well that there are players who absolutely positively will read the monster manual and remember every single stat block. Some of those people will, how do I say this kindly? They'll challenge you on what it is they're confronting. So it behooves us to describe things, foreshadow things, give them clues that maybe that troll isn't the troll that they're thinking of, that they think that they're encountering. Maybe that orc that you've reskinned from a shadow demon really isn't. James Lindell says, yes, they will. Yeah, so there's some table flipping involved when they're like, what do you mean fire and acid doesn't work on a troll? Table flip, right? Now, again, if you have placed these things into your world, let's say you have an ice troll. Well, an ice troll could still be harmed by fire. Let's think of something else. Now I can't think of anything. Okay. You reskinned a troll as an earth elemental. There we go. I gotta think of a good example. Okay, so the players want to go to the elemental plane of earth, or maybe there's an opening, or it doesn't matter, right? Elemental plane of earth. So you reskin the troll as something from the elemental plane of earth. Well, don't come to the table and say, hey guys, it's a troll, but really it's from the elemental plane of earth. You don't say that. You describe it as something, maybe its shoulders and head and the top of his arms are covered with like moss or grass, and its lower body is soft earth and stone and pebbles, and you as it walks, you see that your weapon has struck the creature, and where you struck the creature, you see earth and stone climbing up its body to fill the gap where you struck it with your axe or something, and describe that it's healing. And then you realize, well, wait a minute, it's made out of stone and earth and soil. Well, is acid and fire going to stop it from healing? No, but maybe something else will. Maybe you've said like psychic damage or some other form of damage can stop it from healing. Or maybe if the PCs use an earth-like spell, that earth-like spell, maybe if if they use an earth spell of third level, like I don't know what's an earth spell, like I know pass wall doesn't exist anymore, but move earth or earth stone to mud or some other spells, or flesh to stone, or the opposite, stone to flesh, maybe that operates like a fireball against this creature or something. Water and erosion. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Thank you. I was trying to think. I was like, there is something, and I know I'm missing it. Yes, water and erosion would be something that would work on that. So throat is starting to go on me. So yes, maybe there's an opening for it, or you one of the PCs give them an arcana check, right? When in doubt, get a die roll in there, learn something with history or arcana or religion or survival or nature or something. Yeah, here's a roll. Here's an investigation check. You've questioned some people, and the druidic cult that you left before, you remember they talked about the earthly elementals. The only thing we've been able to fight them with are powerful storms and ocean surges that we're able to use. And you're like, oh, I put and then again, you rephrase it within the world. Hey guys, you remember from your talks with the druidic cult from 3 sessions ago, that they've been able to defeat these wild earth elementals using the power of storms. And someone's like, could I use like a water spray spell or something? My character is a water genasi, and I did reskin my gust of wind spell to be like waves of water. And you're like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. So um tomorrow and later on, we're going to do World Building Wednesday, Third Pillar Thursday, Future Friday. But within that, there is the idea of reskinning player options. So we'll probably do that tomorrow, especially when it comes to world building. So guys, again, thank you very much for joining me. For those who are unfamiliar, here at the very end, please, not only do we go live 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or EDT time or whatever, we are also simulcasting over at Fantasy Grounds College in the Discord. Just slide over to their Discord and move on down to the boiler room. That's where we like to hang out and share a table around some digital pizza, as well as the fact that we do now have a podcast. Our old episodes are being uploaded to SoundCloud, so all that information is located down below the video, down into the foundation. You'll find your little treasures and trinkets down there if you just take a look and click the link. So guys, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I will be in the Discord for just a moment. And there's camera's really bad. All right, guys. See ya. Bye.